So I think this is your first solving crime. You all have the question papers?
Yes.
So this question number 1 of 2011 Zone B. A mixed question of theft, fraud, burglary, like all the property related offenses.
So we don't have problems.
You don't have fraud. Okay. So we skip the fraud part. So the scenario like we have, Sarah visits the local lending library and she would get the chance to steal some books while browsing there. So can everyone take 2 minutes and read the questions? So I heard that you don't have fraud this year, so we will be dealing with theft and burglary. Okay. So can you take 2 minutes to read the question? Have you already read the question? So we have about 3-4 scenarios. Firstly, the library one, where she goes to the library and picks up the book and then leaves it. And then, secondly, we have the credit card thing. She wants to use a credit card, but even though she has exceeded the amount, and then the foreign coin thing that she wants to be using, the vending machine, and then the one where she has ordered food and ran away. So 4 scenarios. Firstly, we did the library one. For theft, what does the prosecution has to prove? So what are the accessories? Yeah.
Appropriation, property belonging to another. Property at the third that belongs to another.
And what is the best here?
Intention and dishonesty.
Intention for what?
Intention to deprive of the right for granted.
They assume something that he doesn't know. Which was then
sections one are important.
Yes, but
Apparently, sections can deal with it.
you will have the statute with you, but you will have to answer 4 questions, 45 minutes each, and then you go. If you have to look through the statute, then that's
So, I was an exclusive clause in your contract in
terms. So like you need to see that table like 30, 40, 50, like outside. So yeah, it's still
the text is pretty easy to remember because text
comes chronologically, yeah.
Yeah, definition wise.
So which section defines theft?
Section one.
one.
Section one. Oh, that
Yes, and theft has been discussed in 2 theft acts.
Chapter 96 and 97.
What is the 1978 one?
Related to obtaining services.
It's making of it okay.
We have to know.
So when we are analyzing this situation, she goes to the library intending to steal some books, takes the book, sees the librarian watching her and keeps it back. If we go along the elements of the offense, was there appropriation? Well, when you are discussing appropriation in this type of scenario, there's a catch, like because in a library you generally have permission to take a book, right? So what is appropriation? So you know the definition, what is appropriation?
Assumption of the rights of
the owner.
Okay. So when you have consent, can there be appropriation?
No.
yes.
What are the line of cases?
Consent is
Yes.
appropriation.
Which case? Yes.
Dishonesty
Wait. Dishonesty and appropriation are 2 different elements. That's in dishonesty. Okay. So what are the line of cases dealing with consent and appropriation?
Lawrence Ames, the Bible of the
Lawrence, Fitzgerald, Morris, and Gomez. Like for this type of scenario, not that important. So you need to discuss the chronology of cases.
Every single one.
Lawrence, no, it's a single para dedicated to the whole concept.
Sir Ames,
Yes, finally we will deal with things, but so there was this. Do you remember the facts of these cases? The Lawrence was the tampering with the label. No, Morris was tampering with the label. Lawrence was the taxi driver. And Fitzgerald was one where, and you were some no, it was the money transfer thing. So X gives Y a certain the duty to bring certain amount of money and like deposit it somewhere, but he keeps it for him also because the money or the property was in the form of coins, gold coins. Right? So in Fitzgerald, the question was raised: when did appropriation occur? When does appropriation occur? When the person defeated or when he has to control the property? Yes. So we have in this situation we are dealing with consent. So in all these cases, there was consent. You had the permission to touch the product, or you assume the control of the product. But when did it amount to appropriation for theft? When you went out or you deviated from the scope of the consent. What was the purpose for which you were given the property, or you had permission to touch the property, and when you deviated from that purpose. So that's when we have So there were inconsistent authorities with Lawrence and Morris. And finally, Gomez came, clearing this doubt and said appropriation did not pose a challenge to or interfere with the owner's rights. So that means in order for there to be appropriation, you did not show that I am interfering with the owner's rights, right? So it's worded in a different way. So assumption of the rights of an owner and interfering with the owner's rights are two different things. Okay? So even if there is authorization, there can still be appropriation. So Hinks finally redefined or clarified the definition, saying assuming the rights of an ownership and when will it amount to theft if this appropriation is coupled with dishonesty, right? So generally, appropriation on itself does not mean there has been a theft. Only when it is coupled with dishonesty, then will it amount to a theft. So you need to discuss this line of cases when you're discussing issues with consent, because this is also the right area for essay. For theft, dishonesty, and the appropriation and consent, these areas are very important for us, because for the last couple of years, I was going through the question papers and I did not see specific problem questions dealing with only with theft. There has been mixed questions, like suppose they wanted you to write an essay on consent and appropriation for 15 marks and they asked you to discuss a scenario like this for 10 marks, right? So be prepared to answer both problem and essay from them, especially when you have this concept part. The book definitely was a property. What is property?
Property includes money.
What do you mean by real property?
Land.
Land is not.
Land.
Land cannot be stolen.
Land is property, but it's not
Cannot be
capable of
something
being
else.
stolen. Yes. And what do you mean by things in action?
Checks.
Or more
Anything
commonly,
that gives you a right to sue.
yeah, more commonly for a problem question, debts. Okay. So keep that in mind. So property won't be a problem. Belonging to another. Did you guys read the case of Corcoran versus Wheat?
Yes.
The rare situation where you can appropriate a property but not belonging to another. So let me tell you facts of the case very briefly. This guy goes to this restaurant, he orders food, he eats the food, he gets out, and his friend tells him that you forgot to pay the bill. He does not go back. He is sued. So what happens was, when he is sued, so he goes to the restaurant. So when he is sued for theft, he is confident, he appeals, saying that the argument was, when you appropriate the property, it must belong to another. So when did appropriation occur in that particular case? When he had taken the food, when he went out and was told by his friend. But by the time when he was told by his friend that you have not paid the bill, that is when the appropriation occurred, by that time the food had become a part of his body. So in that particular situation, you do not have appropriation and belonging to another coinciding, right? So this is a very rare case, only one of its kind. So appropriation and belonging to another, they have to coincide, right? So when you are appropriating, that property has to belong to someone else.
So when he ate it,
Yeah.
It did belong to somebody else.
No, when he ate it, he still had the intention to pay. So when it actually became appropriation for theft, when he was later told by his friend that you had forgotten to pay the bill.
Accuracy and the menstrual become coincident.
So, but it was actors real, both actors real.
Menstrual is
Yeah, menstrual, sorry, atmosphere,
And when we are talking about appropriation for theft, we mean like not general appropriation, we mean appropriation with dishonesty. Right. So like which can amount to theft, right? So at that particular point he had digested the food, it had become a part of his body.
It was like atmosphere and mention, like he didn't
Yeah.
really focus on appropriation and belonging to another.
No, because in the subject they mentioned this with much importance, that's why I'm discussing it right now. So just for you.
they did not coincide appropriation and belonging to another.
Yes.
Why? How come they did not coincide?
Because appropriation for theft occurred when he was informed by his friend that you did not pay the bill. So that when his intention arose, right? So, but by that time, when he was informed, he had already digested the food. And then we have dishonesty. Which section defines dishonesty?
So they don't define
They do
dishonesty.
not define
They
dishonesty.
give three exceptions.
Exceptions where there won't be any dishonesty. What are the exceptions?
Reasonable belief that the owner would have consented.
Reasonable belief? No.
When you
Honestly believe.
Honestly,
Right? So don't mess it up in the exam. Not reasonable belief. It's honest belief for section 2, those three scenarios. So honest belief that he would have consent if the other knew of the circumstances, or if he honestly believes that he has in law the right to deprive the other person of it, and if honestly he believes that the person cannot be discovered by following reasonable steps. Look at this situation. X goes to Y's house, sees that on the table there's a book which belongs to X's cousin, and X believes that X's cousin, that he should take the book and take it back to his cousin. Will that situation, if he takes that book, will he be exempted from dishonesty? No. For example, I go to my friend's house and I see my friend has a book that belongs to my cousin, and I think the book should be returned to my cousin. So I take the book without asking him and return it to my cousin. Will I fall under the exception?
Yes.
Why?
You honestly have that you would have consent.
Who would have consent? No. I know my friend had taken it, he does not want to return it.
There's no conflict.
He doesn't want to return it.
that was the property belongs to the friend.
What?
And the time the property was with the friend.
Yes.
It's under his possession.
Yes.
So does the friend become the owner?
Theoretically, let's say the friend becomes the owner.
So then you won't fall into the exception.
I will, because the subsection, it says, if you take the property on behalf of yourself or for a third person. So if I take the property with an honest belief that in law I have the right to deprive the other of it, either for myself or on behalf of another third party. So I'm thinking that my friend should not have the book, and I have a right to deprive him of it for my cousin, because I believe the book belongs to my cousin. So the first situation under 2.1 also extends to belief or like recovery for third parties, right? And what is the test that we follow for dishonesty? What is the test that we follow for dishonesty? Yes. What is the test?
Reasonable pursuit. It's objective test.
Subjective test, yes. What's the objective part?
Whether a reasonable person in the place of the defendant would have believed that he would have been consented in the given circumstance.
And
Honestly,
so
you have now is now. So
and what is the subjective test?
if the defendant himself believed was honest,
The defendant himself believed that his actions would be considered to be dishonest on an objective standard. Right? So, is there a theft in this situation when she picks up the book?
yes.
There is appropriation.
She was dishonest, she wanted to intentionally deprive the owner of it, and that was before the evidence was satisfied.
What about the fact that she kept back the book?
That's case where case where it's one that doesn't matter.
Because when this question came up, about 50% of the students, they thought it was a case of attempt. Wrongfully thought it was a case of attempt. For example, you could not yet appropriate. You were trying to appropriate. You see the book, and you are going towards the book. You want to appropriate the book, but before that you got caught. That's it. Or the actual owner comes and picks up the book and takes it away. So you can do it, but you will still be charged for it.
There is there punishment
Charged
for
for burglary, actually, not exactly that.
From
Yeah, because you know, it is the border, your right is to buy it,
Yes.
buy it,
Brown and Jones, right? Yeah, we will be coming to that point later. Okay. But we are still in theft, not econo
But even
burglary.
burglary was getting into the library with intention to steal something,
Yeah.
that's burglary, because he was going out of his right
So,
while entering it. But normally it's burglary.
okay, before we go to burglary, first, theft economic buckets. When we are dealing with an offense like in crime, do mention the maximum statutory punishment before you start the answer. What is the statutory maximum punishment for theft? 7 years. And for burglary,
40 minutes maximum.
That is sad, why is burglary more than theft?
Because you're trespassing and
burglary,
Theft, you're going to the burglary থাকবেই।
burglary was the theft.
হ্যাঁ,
It's usually theft.
it's the other way around. Burglary মধ্যে usually theft. Theft মধ্যে not necessarily. হ্যাঁ, so burglary জন্য বেশি। Okay, now what are the elements for burglary?
Or the trespassing from building or part of the building.
Okay, before that, how burglary has been defined in which section?
9(1)(a) and 9(1)(b).
What's the difference between 9(1)(a and 9(1)(b)? Wait, 1%.
Yes, you have the intention and then you enter, and in B you form the intention after you enter.
So, this situation,
The picture.
the library one, which is most relevant here?
So 9(1)(b).
Why 9(1)(a? And why not 9(1)(b)?
Because she didn't form the intention after entering, she entered with the intention. Or
If she has just entered the library to borrow a book, but just for the proper purpose, I go there.
Which is second example, second paragraph in 9(1)(b) applicable.
So, what are the elements that we need to prove for burglary?
and sufficient entry.
Not sufficient entry. That was previous test. No. The entry has to be effective, not substantial, right? Which case?
That's taken out of the window.
And what about trespass? When you have permission to enter. For example, she had permission to enter into the library, but can we say she was trespassing?
Yeah.
Yes, she didn't have
Because
permission to steal from you.
according to our Jones
Both Collins and Jones and Smith. That if you exceed the permission, or if you exceed the scope of permission, then you actually trespassing. So what is it? Like you are doing something which she was not supposed to do. So for the library situation, what are we charging Sarah for? Theft and burglary. When you have multiple situations in an exam, for example, like when we were dealing with the next scenarios, you don't need to discuss the same issues if you have already discussed them before. For example, when you are defining theft, when you are defining dishonesty, intention, you do not need to go into the definitions again. For the first time when you are discussing, cite the legal test, apply them to the facts, and reach a conclusion. When you are discussing them for a second scenario in the same question, just go directly into factual analysis and reach a conclusion. So, for the second scenario, where she uses the credit card, how can you establish theft? Or can you establish theft?
Property will be the taking action.
Yes, because debt, when you have taken the products, you owe the superstore a debt, right?
The property was an intangible taken action.
Yes.
She had
And
exceeded her credit, so she didn't have the permission to use it further. But she has it again.
well, we come to that later. First of all, is it a property?
Yeah.
Secondly, has there been appropriation?
Yes.
How?
She
She took the pay without paying.
took it to the check.
So when
She received the rest of the.
it is fraud and theft as well. Both.
How come it's theft? It's like
That's what we are
Section
discussing.
316, theft like 1978.
No, we are not running over here. I am paying, or I am purporting to pay with the credit card which has crossed the limit, right? So, first of all, we say it was property, a thing in action, because I owed the superstore a debt. Secondly, belonged to another, so the debt was owed to a superstore, and we are concerned about appropriation. When she was using the credit card, she did not have a permission. Maybe the credit card was issued to her. So we again come to this dilemma of the consent. It's my credit card, I am trying to use it. But whether I am exceeding the scope of the permission. When I have been already notified by the bank that I have crossed the limit, which actually revokes my permission, which means I cannot use it for paying or for any monetary transaction, which Sarah is trying to do here. So there has been an appropriation. So you need to clearly discuss in this type of series how you think there has been
The
appropriation.
subject matter here is what? There.
The debt.
Could you repeat it again?
Firstly, property. What is the property? No, the debt. She has already bought the products. She's trying to pay for it. So unless she returns the product, what is the property that she's trying to deprive the superstore? The money. and it belonged to another. So the debt, the money, it belonged to the superstore. And thirdly, appropriation. I had a consent by the bank to use the credit card, but it was revoked or it was modified by the letter that I could not use it anymore because I had crossed the credit limit, and unless I give the money owed to the bank, I won't be able to use it for any monetary transactions. But when I am still using it, I am crossing my permission and I am actually assuming the rights of an owner, because who, after the termination of my allowance, who became the owner? The bank. So I am trying to authorize payment which I was not supposed to do, on which only the bank had the permission to do, right? So I am assuming the rights of an owner. So the actus reus is satisfied. Okay. What about mens rea? So when you are writing it in the exam, you don't need to go through all the three situations discussed in subsection 2. You just directly say, this particular situation does not fall with any of the exceptions discussed under section 2. The only way, or according to the Ghosh test, which identifies whether there has been a dishonesty or not, on an objective basis, Sarah would be found dishonest, and on a subjective basis, she would still be found dishonest.
Sir, আমরা কি first paragraph থেকে আলাদা দেখে first and second verb use করব? আমার আমরা second paragraph এ second verb এর same points দিয়ে আবার use করব
because you see how the marks will be allocated 5 or 7, 5, 5. So you have separate marks for them. So
I'll have to repeat the same
no,
paragraph.
that's what I say. You do not cite the legal tests. You only cite the legal test for the first situation, the lively one. So there you say what is theft, which section defines theft, what is appropriation, which section defines it, what is intention to permit. You define all those, apply them to the facts, and then reach a conclusion.
Some second charges apply.
You just apply them directly because you do not.
How do I explain?
For example, when you are talking about dishonesty for the first one,
I'll say that this act of her needs.
no, that's a factual analysis. So you have to cite the legal test first. So for the first situation, you would say dishonesty has not been defined in any of the sections. Rather, the common law test in R versus Ghosh is used to determine whether the defendant was dishonest or not. R versus Ghosh test has two tiers. Firstly, the objective test and the subjective test. Hey, you have discussed. So when you are coming to the second one, you do not need to discuss this. You would just say Sarah would satisfy dishonesty under the Ghosh test because she would be found dishonest from an objective point of view, and as well as she would be found dishonest from subjective point of view.
The property doesn't define it's an intangible, it's a thing in action here, and it's a
So you do not need to define property again. You just say, just you would say that this is a property that is, it's a thing in action and thus capable of being property. If you want to be extra sure, just say in the bracket as discussed above. All right. So we have dishonesty and then we have intention to permanently deprive. For the third situation, the foreign client thing. This thing would have been more suitable for a fraud question. So I will not go into discussion with this, but suppose if this came up, do you think you could prove theft?
Yes. So she
There
said,
was,
that he
it
said-
didn't belong to him,
Yes.
and it was a property.
Yes.
It's a property.
And
He was unsuccessful.
he was unsuccessful, but then again, other two, on a case still was unsuccessful. So you know, library Jane couldn't take the book.
Yes.
So it kind of
Okay. So at the time of appropriation,
it's not there.
what was the appropriation here?
He assumed the rights of the owner by wanting to take the chocolate without paying for it properly.
This is an attempt that he couldn't appropriate the chocolate part, an unsuccessful.
And then again, that the library was successful. She wrote me that word.
Library person and chocolate.
Now, do you need to touch the thing physically in order to be an appropriation?
Yes, we don't know.
I don't know.
So this will be the
No. For example, suppose you see someone else's work, a novel.
So we
Yes. You just look at it, you're appropriating, right?
That's not that the document. Sir, but
Yes.
এটা তো এখনো ক্ষেত্রে হিসাবে
Nah, I don't understand. That's what I'm saying. Nah, as a general principle, can you appropriate a property without touching it?
No.
No.
You can. What is a property?
Documents can be for everything.
It can be a thing in action, right? So, if you had to touch it physically, then all properties would have to come in physical form. It does not come in physical form, right? So, properties which do not come in physical form, how do you appropriate them?
So chocolate is coming in physical.
Yes. So, here, can you prove appropriation?
No. No. So attempted.
Why do you say you can?
You can't have that.
You cannot. You cannot. So, what would this be?
So attempted.
Okay.
But that was something going, so anything that is there in physical form that has to be touched.
The book was in the physical form. No, the thing is, she picked it up. She could take it. She could exercise the rights of an owner.
So that's very contradictory. You shouldn't have done that. That should have been attempted as well.
No, that's why I say a lot of people got that wrong.
I know, I'm case sports, so I won't get that one.
But the thing is,
it shouldn't.
when you're appropriating, the exact type of appropriation, when you picked up the book,
I didn't read it.
so
I didn't.
do you need to read it?
have it. Exactly, I didn't have
He-
it.
Was there an intention to have it? What's the intention for theft? You only need to have an intention to deprive the other person of it, right? Yes. Yes. So when you picked up the book, you could actually exercise the right of an owner. And
Everybody's allowed to pick up that word.
yes, and why was it appropriation capable of being theft? Because you also had this dishonesty and the intention to permanently deprive them.
Maybe Baki check the
Yeah.
appropriation right now.
Because ওইটাতে you could pick it up, but এখানে you cannot.
Chocolate
Appropriation definition 99.
Now, what is the definition of appropriation? You assume the rights of an owner, or you exercise the rights of an owner. By picking up the book, you satisfied the test in the library situation. But
But everybody's picking up that book.
yes, that's why I said not only appropriation does not amount to theft. It has to be coupled with dishonesty and intention to permanently deprive, which we saw there was in the library situation. But here, could you actually exercise the right of the owner on the chocolate? You wanted to. That's why you started a process in 3 points. But could you actually exercise any right on that chocolate? No. So you will not be able to prove appropriation, right? The cafe. The cafe, you go to the cafe, order food, make off without payment. What would you make of it?
personal corporate person এখানে যে intention প্রথম থেকেই ছিল যদি start করতে
So that's why there is a distinction between differentiation between corporate and this particular situation. What is the difference? In corporate, when did appropriation coupled with dishonesty occur?
After he was told by his friend.
After he was told by his friend. What happened to the property? By that time,
Already digested.
digested. But here,
she went with the intention
The intention.
okay, read the question again. How do you know that she had the intention?
because
Sure.
she
She
was
waited
looking
until
around
Mother
for
was
people to meet.
It said, feeling in a need of rest, she stopped at a cafe and ordered coffee and cake. Think like a lawyer. How would you establish intention here?
So she waited until nobody was looking at them.
No, when she actually ordered the food, maybe it could have been like that she ate the food and realized that she did not have money. That's when she started.
That's not mentioned here.
So how would you, if you were a lawyer, how would you derive intention in this?
Sometimes when she ran away,
Waited for people to
suggests
meet.
that she had the intention.
Look at the overall facts. In the previous situation, we saw she went to the supermarket.
Didn't have money.
She didn't have money. So if you don't have money, you go
Why did you order
to the
food?
yes. Why did you order food? That means that implies that you had kind of an intention of like depriving. So how would you? Which section would you go for?
Both test and
What?
test তো হবে verbally ও হতে পারে specific intention over very year বাইরে
অত অর্থাৎ লিভিং অফ বাইরে একটা ট্রেসপাস ট্রেসপাস করতে হবে।
trespass a person is trespassing to your right here to যায়
What is the most relevant law in this situation? Which section?
Section 3 of Theft and Manslaughter.
Yes, because that exactly defines.
So I don't think we have section 3 now.
Okay, if you don't have, then analyze it according to section 1.
So I don't think we will talk 78.
I was in board and consideration.
So we will talk 74 at all.
But as per subject get discussed, so that's why. Acha. Okay, 78 to the Bagode. What about 68?
You will see the rights of your 1960. Section 60.
Come chronologically. Appropriation was a property belonging to another. Intention. The only question or discussion that you might have would be regarding dishonesty. How would you prove dishonesty? Because it did not say from the outset that she had an intention to make off without payment or not to pay for the food. So how would you do it? You bring in evidence from all the circumstances of the case.
so what they're further
You can discuss burglary. What are the elements of burglary? Come one by one.
trespass একটা কেস ছিল যেটাতে মানে trespassing এর part of something like
Supposed to do. So you exceed the permission, similar to consent, appropriation, and consent. Yes. So you can discuss burglary. Once you discuss theft, then you say in 2 or 3 lines that if you can, like, very shortly, factually analyze the scenario in respect of 9.1. Okay, what would you go for, 9.1A or 9.1B?
9.1B should have the intention of very good.
So you have to discuss both. That if you can establish intention before going in to the cafe, that she would go into the cafe, order food, and run off, then that would be 9(1)(a). But if she were to realize that she did not have any money after she went in, then that would be 9(1)(b).
Right, in
So and the fact,
Part
the
two, there was
question said
nine-
that she went in for a rest. And
Yes.
then ordered.
Yes. So you discuss both. Firstly, if you cannot establish intention from the outset, you discuss.
Previous circumstance.
Yes, but even then, if the court is not satisfied, no, the court does not find she was so tired she forgot she had any money.
Can't be just like that. It is for the jury to decide.
Yes, but what would the jury decide? Suppose one jury finds that there was intention from outset, and the other jury finds no, there was no intention.
So it was likely that the jury will convict her of theft in a given scenario.
No, you are finding out for theft. We are saying what about burglary?
Right?
Yes.
I agree.
Why not?
So jury trespass before a liability trespass.
What is trespass?
Entering part of the building. I have
And how do you define permission?
So when you exit operating right?
Yes. So there again comes this point of coinciding. So we are saying burglary. Why? Because he or she committed a theft while being a trespasser, right? So when did she actually commit the theft?
Decided discussion. 9(1)(b) with the for the fact that she was tired and she forgot.
And later realized that she did not have money, so she decided she would commit a theft.
9(1)(a) only.
And
We have to
if
discuss both of them.
so, you discuss both of them. You don't go in details discussion because you have already discussed burglary previously. You just make the examiner understand that you have considered these probabilities.
That's not a failure.
First answer goes like 6 pages, or 4 pages later. In number 3.5, and number 8.
So balance to one.
Balance তো of course you can do if you can do that, but হয় কি যখন আমি কয়েকটা জিনিস what my tips are, first of all your first impression is the best. So if you think that you can score very well on the first answer that you're attempting, do that properly and to your satisfaction.
Can we do 3 first and then
I
one?
Yes.
just said that instead of writing one good answer, try to set up for 4
Yes.
average answers.
What I'm saying is, do not write one very good one and only answer 3. Like you don't answer anything for that. Because so what I would say is like answer your best one first, so that what happens is when the examiner is taking the copies, the scripts, the impression matters. So if you have already scored 16 or 17 in your first answer, even if your second answer is of the grade 14, he would tend to give you a 15 or 16 because he has in his mind already set you up in that standard, right? And same thing happens. So if you write 3 good answers, and if in the 4th one you ran out of time, you wrote a shortened version of what you would actually write, the London examiners, they do give you an extra 1 or 2 marks, because if they can understand that you knew it, but just because of time you could not write it, and your previous answers show that you had considerable knowledge and understanding of the syllabus, then they do give you a 1 or 2 marks extra in the last one.
Yeah.
Would that be easy? Do you have any questions regarding theft or burglary?
No, sir. So if you were to give an essay on appropriation and concept, would you just say the case of that? Should we
You give these
Of course, you should do it.
and look into like first there was an article regarding this, like in Smith and Hogan, the book. Yeah.
Quite a book of books, Alan, unlocking,
Alan, like
Q&A.
I did not read unlocking. I did not read Q&A. I only, to some extent, went for Alan because I joined very late. I joined LLB. I joined for my first year in the end of November, first week. I had my first class on 6th of December. So I joined with it. So I could not actually, like, I saw so many books. I could not go through them. So I listened to lectures mostly. But Alan is very good for understanding. But it does not have much SMI. Wilson is not very student friendly, I would say. What you do, you go to the subject guide. On this point, they mention 2 or 3 articles. Yes, essential reading. And they mention no, that's an effective. So look at those cases, or if you have Q&A, see whether you can find any essay on this Q&A. Okay, so this one is important. Dishonesty is important. How the law of dishonesty has shaped from previously, right? Or how the courts are applying the Ghosh test.
So
yeah, but not to that extent. They would not require you to know the previous position in details, right? Because they understand that it's not relevant. The only relevance is just for the sake of comparison, not for anything else. So you don't need to go to that extreme details. And you can find enough materials. Look to the subject. Do you have the studies?
Yes.
In our study batch, we had like good articles, and from
Articles.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, but okay, before the exam, what you do is like last newsletter check. ওরা একটা ওরা একটা আপডেট দেয় এক্সামের আগে with like প্রত্যেকটা চ্যাপ্টার what are the case laws that you need to know and what are the recent changes that recent developments that you should be aware of. So একদম chapter wise এক্সামের আগে একটা দেয়. Keep a lookout for that. ওইটাতে একটা দেখা থাকে theft, you need to know these cases by heart. Burglary, you need to know these cases by heart. So there's kind of a case list that they put up.
Dishonesty goes from whether
Q&A তে থাকে. I haven't seen this year's Q&A. আমাদের সময় Q&A তে there were essays. Like আমরা Q&A থেকে sometimes you would even find the exact question from Q&A. So
subject
don't follow Wilson as a textbook. But if you want to read, like just for your own sake, then I would say okay, you can read Wilson, but go through the other books, whatever like suits you. It depends, it varies from person to person.
not Wilson.
Now, Wilson Thorben, since Wilson will be your examiner. Yeah, so what I would suggest, every answer, write 2 or 3 lines of Wilson and say, Wilson says, according to Wilson, this. Because that shows the examiner, okay. So he has read that. So you need to actually show him that you read his book. You don't really need to read. But what he will go through the script. So what happens is 2 examiners, they will mark your scripts, and the head examiner will just go through them to see whether there has been like substantial difference in the marking or whether there was any error that any of the examiners did. So he gives the final mark on your script. And he would check a lot of copies. Maybe he will not check all of the copies, but it's good to be on the safe side.
প্রতিটা অ্যান্সার উইলসন সে
চারটা অ্যান্সার লিখবে, চারটা উইলসনের একটা অবজারভেশন দিয়ে দেয়। কিসে? কারণ আপনার ফার্স্ট শর্ট কোডগুলো থাকবে, theft, robbery, burglary, OAPA, SOA, and murder, manslaughter, এগুলো থাকে। সো আইদার ইন্ট্রোতে অথবা কনক্লুশনে অথবা যদি কোনো পয়েন্ট থাকে যেটাতে হয়তো একটু ক্রিটিক্যাল ইভালুয়েশন দরকার, সেই পয়েন্টে লাইক মেক লিস্ট 6-7টা কমেন্ট, 10টা কমেন্ট, সামথিং লাইক থেফটের উপর একটা জেনারেল কমেন্ট, সামথিং
করবে তো বইটা পড়তেই হবে।
নট নেসেসারি। হ্যাঁ, একটু হলে দেখতে হবে। হ্যাঁ, সো একটা পয়েন্টের উপরে ইটস নট দ্যাট ডিফিকাল্ট, জাস্ট একদিন বসে সবগুলো বের করে ফেলা। মেইন এক্সামিনার যারা থাকবে ক্রাইম, কন্ট্রাক্ট, সিলার এন্ড দিকে তার ভিউজ গুলো নেয়, পার্টিকুলার যেগুলো আপনার শিওর শট, like which would be your first and second priorities for the exam, target those, find out codes, use them.
আচ্ছা স্যার, ধরেন একটা লাইন উইলসন বললো, ওটা কোনো কেস ব্যাকিং নাই, কোনো আর্টিকেল ব্যাকিং নাই, তাহলে আমি ওই সেন্টেন্সটা লিখে শেষে আমি ব্র্যাকেটে উইলসন লিখব।
You can write Wilson,
ব্র্যাকেটে
হ্যাঁ, but don't underline it. Don't underline it.
স্যার আর্টিকেল আনলাইন করব
না, only case underline হবে, অন্য কিছু না।
আচ্ছা, আর্টিকেলের তো যদি লিখি তাহলে অথর আর্টিকেল
Yes. Okay. You have contract class after this. So, okay. How many of you are under my supervision? And how many of you are still to show me the case? Final one. আমরা আজকের বিকজ কালকে it will be অনেক রাশ থাকবে কালকে, সো কালকে আমরা হয়তো চেক করতে পারবো না। সো যারা চেক করানোর ফাইনাল ফিডব্যাকের জন্য আজকে চেক করাবে।
So how long are you here in the country?
স্যার
As long as I will be required. So I would say that I plan to leave at 6 yesterday and I left at 10:30. So হয়তো ওরকম হবে আর কি, 7:30-8টা।
স্যার আর্টিকেল যদি মেনশন করি তাহলে অথর এন্ড টাইটেল
Oh yes.
ডিটেইল,
হ্যাঁ, author and title.
আর ব্র্যাকেটে আন্ডারলাইন করব।
Author is the first thing. যদি টাইটেল ভুলে যান সমস্যা নেই, বাট অথর মানে যদি ক্রিটিক্যাল কমেন্টারি ইউজ করেন তাহলে একটা জিনিস যদি ইউজ করেন সেটা হচ্ছে author.
স্যার কেস নোটের স্যার আপনি আমাকে একটু ওয়েবসাইট থেকে বলছিলেন, আমি তো পাকিস্তান
What's your হ্যাঁ, but I did not receive any mail this morning.
স্যার ওরা আমি একসাথে পাঠিয়েছি।
না, because আমি last night আমি যত মেইল আসছে আমি সবগুলোর ফিডব্যাক দিয়েছি। So if you have not